Yeah, recording is going to be wonderful. Good, good, good. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is recording. That's wonderful. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the next one in the 15 most frequently asked questions. Today we have 7. Okay, and today is the wonderful Gail Hugman. I've never met Gail in real life. Okay, but we have had a one-to-one. So, Gail, tell us what you do, please.
I motivate primary age children and teach them to absolutely love learning and want to do very well in school. That's what I do, because I spent 30 years in London schools watching children coast, watching children not be involved, lacking engagement, and I decided to focus on it. So
fantastic. Well, I said, Gail sent me some questions through, and they are so pertinent. I wish I'd had these questions, a few days ago. But I will be recording this. I'll put it on YouTube, and I will be using these questions to promote it. So, okay, she's going to be 15 questions here. I've chosen 7, which are great. So let's go with number 14. So, Gail, so these are the most frequently asked questions that Gail gets asked. Okay, so how can I help my child concentrate better at school?
Yeah. Okay, this one, I was my very first client in Lessons Live asked me if I would go, because she realized I'd come out of teaching, and would I go and sit with her 11-year-old in his classroom because he wasn't concentrating, and his minder had gone off on maternity leave and they were about to exclude him. And I said, certainly not. That's not what I had in mind. But what I will do is teach him to concentrate. And then I thought, how am I going to do that? Okay, so the first thing you need to do is explain what concentration is. And the best way to explain to a young child what concentration is to put them into a situation where they experience concentration. And so what I did with this young boy was get him, at the time I had a lawn with a little one single brick edge. And I asked him to walk on this lawn backwards and forwards on the edge. Once the giggling had stopped and he got his balance, and I could see really had to focus to not fall off this little wall. It was okay because I knew his mother, so I knew I'd be okay. Once I saw that point of concentration, I said to him, what you are now feeling, we call concentration. That feeling is what you need to feel when you go to school. And then we identified that what concentration is all of your energy focused on one thing. And to encourage this further, I gave him a little call over to do as he went up school drive. And I said, as you walk into school, I want you to say to yourself, I'm walking the path of focus and concentration. I'm walking the path of focus and concentration. We alerted the school to the fact he wasn't going to have a minder, that he was working with me privately outside school, and would they bear with us and support us, because obviously you don't go from being the class miscreant to being perfect overnight. And I would check in with him every day, which parents can do, not about what work they've done, but how was your focus today, and remind them all of your energy on one thing. So that's one thing you can do. Another way to do it in people's homes was to balance a glass on the palm of the hand. Oh, you can't see that. And get the little person, fill it up with water, tell them to walk across the kitchen and back without spilling a drop. And then you put them into that state of concentration. It is not the same as sitting in front of the computer for hours on end, being mesmerized by a computer game. It's a conscious, actual act that the child needs to perform. It's a skill, being able to draw in your energy and block out everything else. So that was my first encounter with teaching concentration.
I wish I'd known that when I was a child, I tell you, crikey. What about homework? It's a great subject, isn't it? I mean, I'm delighted I've dodged homeschool, is all I can say. But homework can be quite a battleground. Yeah. Is there a way to change this?
Yes, I used to go to the supermarket and buy whatever took my fancy. And at one point in my life, I joined Weight Watchers and I had to plan all my meals. And when I did that, I reduced my bill and food waste significantly. I was astonished. And it's the same with something like homework. Now, a young child up before puberty doesn't have the framework yet printed into them. They do not have a framework that helps them to manage time. And so you need to plan a homework period at home and say you've got this period of time, maybe it's 5 till 6 before dinner, or whenever, but you decide the time. Now, it can be a different time each day, but you need to write it up so that young brain can see what's expected. And then if they mess about, if they don't get it done, they go into school and they explain to the teacher why it wasn't finished. It might have been too difficult, in which case the teacher needs to know. It might be that they couldn't be bothered, in which case they can explain that to their teacher, because they need to learn about consequences at some point. And a consequence of not doing your work is you have to explain the reason for that. Now, that will very quickly bring the child to a point where they realize they are responsible for it. I time all the activities. I don't time children. I say you've got half an hour to do this English. And the reason I do that is because at some point you can battle for 2 or 3 hours in an evening with a child with homework, but then they've got to do an exam, and that brain has got to deliver in 40 minutes or 45 minutes. So they have to learn to do that, and a really good way to do it is with homework. So plan your time, plan your slot. Tell the child beforehand this is what's expected, and get a homework buddy, so that if they forget it, you can phone someone and find out what it was, or email the teacher and find out what it was.
Yeah, I like the consequence. I mean, I've always been a bit of a lawnmower parent, and so so yeah, but yeah, putting the consequences on the children is a great idea. I would remind everyone, okay, that there will be a Q&A at the end. We're 20 minutes and everyone has some questions. So if you've got any questions, get them ready, or put them in chat, whatever, or wait till 20 past, and we can do it then. I mean, number 2 is a very, 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 very big question. I mean, what do you do with an angry child? I mean, well, that's it. What do you do with an angry child?
There are quite a lot of angry children at the moment because there's been so much change, and children before puberty are based almost solely in feeling, and they have no real experience or reference to navigate the world. So if they feel pressure, if there's too much change, if they can't cope with sudden changes to plans, they may well get very angry, because that's the release of energy that is triggered by the fact they have an agenda. They are going to do something, you interrupt it, and that energy that they've manufactured to do that thing has to go somewhere, and so they'll erupt. Now, the worst thing you can do is is erupt with them and go into anger yourself. You may be very frustrated, and it can be, I mean, it took me a long time as a teacher to learn this, that the best thing to do is to hold them, not ignore them. A lot of people say just ignore it and wait till they calm down. If you think about it, that young person is dealing with one of the most powerful forces in creation. They are dealing with an extremely powerful energy in themselves, and they don't have the skills to bring themselves out of it immediately like we do. So that if you get cut up driving, you might ignite that fury, but you can bring yourself quickly down. Now, my recommendation to all my clients and people who ask about angry children, don't get angry about it. They are the only ones that can stop it. And so you have to wait with them, know it without saying anything. They know they shouldn't be doing whatever the behavior is. And you wait, hold them if they're being destructive if you can, and always make sure you're holding them at arm's length so you can't get kicked or whatever. But when they calm themselves down, and you can say, I've done it with children where you halfway through you'll say, are you okay now? And they'll erupt again because, and I'll say, okay, I'll wait. I'll wait. But don't get involved with it, because your energy will then fuel their energy. It's like pouring water on a chip fire, and it will get worse. So you have to wait until, and encourage that child very calmly, speaking to them to bring themselves out of it. And you will then help a child develop the tools they need for adulthood, where they can manage that and they don't get involved in things like road rage or that's what we need, isn't it? We need people who can take control and talk to them about, between birth and growing up, part of your job is to learn to control those feelings and those impulses. So that's what I would say to that one, Nick.
Excellent. It leads neatly into question 4, which is my child is anxious about returning to school. And again, I mean, I've heard a lot of examples of that. They've been at home now for, well, best part of a year. So anxious about returning to school. What can I do about that?
Yeah, don't be anxious with them, because they, as I say, they are responding to feeling. And if you're anxious, they will respond in like that. They will feel anxious. And so I recommended to somebody this week that her 6-year-old, you could tell your very young ones that you're going to go into training. We're going to go into training to tackle school. And so you get up early, you put the uniform on, you see, and you make it a game so that you can do that. If you've got older ones anxious about going back to school, then don't make a big deal of it, because the more you talk about it and the more, just be really matter of fact, reassuring that everything's fine, because and look, what is there to look forward to? The more positive stuff you can talk about, the better. I mean, most children, I think, in this lockdown, there may be some, but the majority of children, in my experience, have been in touch with teachers throughout lockdown. So they know what they're going back. They know what they're going back to. And all the children I know are really looking forward to seeing their friends. So there shouldn't be too much anxiety. You can reassure them with, if you need extra help, we will get you extra help, even if it's just sitting with them for an extra half an hour for the first couple of weeks in the evening to get their heads around homework. But it's the child's well-being is more important than the work at the moment. So I focus on that, and planning something nice at the end of the first day, and planning something nice at the end of the first week, so you get them over that anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking about obviously doing all the lateral flow tests and stuff. So for small children, the mask, the distancing, all the rest of it, and now tests every other day. It's a difficult, terrifying time for children, aren't they?
Well, yeah, it's hard because children need to read faces. So that makes it tricky for them. But I think the very small ones don't have to wear masks. I think school was reprimanded actually for putting the child in masks.
Really?
I think so. I think it needs to be managed differently, because my main concern throughout all of this has been the social side for the children. The content, the knowledge, the fronted adverbials, all of that stuff you can learn. But it is the social side. I think that's really
next Monday, hopefully. So there you go.
Yeah.
Number 5 is a lovely question. Okay, I mean, every parent wants to. How do I improve my child's creativity? Where do I start there, Gail?
Okay, the biggest thing, biggest weakness I've come across with children. Well, first of all, we shouldn't be asking children. I'll get struck off for this, but we shouldn't be asking children at primary age to be creative, because they are naturally creative. And when you start to put it into a formula and you say you've got to write a story with a story mountain and you've got to do this, that, it completely addles their brains. But you need to give them as much reference as possible, because if I ask you to tell me about Morecambe Beach and you've never been there, then you will go to the nearest thing you've got to Morecambe Beach in your head. And the nearest beach you've got might be Brighton Beach, so you'll write about that. But most children do not have the range of reference, so they'll say, I don't know what to write. What do I write? And I would always start them off and I would tell a really bad story so that they go, no, I can do better than that, and they will take over. And you can play that game, what's it called, consequences, where you're rolling pieces of paper, he said, she said, this happened, that happened, and make stories up that way. But another really good, really important thing to do with young children, up to 11, up to secondary school, is to take one thing at a time, maybe once every 2 weeks or something. And this is my brain. And you say, tell me what you think of that. And you get them to talk about, a flower, or look at it really, really closely and look at all the lines on it, look at the colors on it. I remember once I had this brainwave, and I got all this exotic fruit from the supermarket. And I took it back to school for an art lesson. I thought, this will get them going. And I didn't know what all the fruit was. There was dragon fruit, there was tomarillo, there was all this exotic stuff that was quite new at the time. I was in Guildford teaching at the time. And so first of all, we looked at it, we smelt it, we opened it, we drew it closed, we drew it open. We were fascinated with touching it. Is it smooth? Is it rough? What's it feel like? Do the vocabulary that goes with it. And then I said, okay, everybody taste it. And as soon as a child went, ugh, I thought, oh my God, what if I poison someone? I'll be front page news. And it was before everybody was hyper about EpiPens and things, probably people like me that caused it to happen. But it was because it was a tomarillo, and you have to cook those. I think you pickle them. I didn't know that. I thought it was fruit.
I've not heard of it. Must have.
It's bright red. It's like a very large, long, skinny tomato.
Okay.
Auntie Planty will know. She's a genius. But it's look at things closely. You don't need to do it often. You just need to help that child begin to examine the world they're in and put vocabulary with it, and give them as much experience as possible. Trips out when you can, go wherever, and talk to them about it as you do it. Don't just wander around.
What they're experiencing at the time. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I love this question. I'm wondering what the answer is going to be. That is it true that reading a lot will improve my child's vocabulary?
I put this on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago because it's something that most people seem to say and agree with, and I don't. I don't agree. It will only do that if you discuss it with your child and you encourage them to read. Asking a child to look up all the words they don't know is going to kill any enthusiasm for learning, for reading.
Well, it stops the flow, doesn't it? I mean, how can you do that?
Yeah. So when I'm teaching children to read, I will give them names. I won't even bother to ask them to break names down, because you might come across the name Cedric once in your whole life. What is the point in struggling to work out what it says? And then the flow, to me, is more important, unless we take one paragraph and we break that down. And I recommend this to all of my clients. Once a week, take one paragraph, whatever age child, and break it down, so that you ask them to read a sentence, and then you ask them, what in that sentence do you not get? Because the majority of children, in my experience, which is considerable, the majority of children are just reading. So they can tell you all about the story. They can explain what happens to, Harry Potter and everything. But if you take one paragraph and you take it apart, and have they got the imagery in their head? Have they got the reference for all the language in it? Then you can start to improve their vocabulary, because you're actually talking to them about it, making it relevant to them, connecting it with other things they know, and giving them the experience of that reading, rather than just reading all the way through the book.
Excellent. Well, thank you. No, okay, we'll end on number one. Come on, last question. What does Lessons Alive do then?
I think an awful lot of children, I would even go as far as saying 98% of children, underperform or underachieve at some point. because they either don't understand how to use school to develop themselves. They think they go to school to conform to something that school wants. And I'm always saying to children, you're not there to turn into something they want. You go there to take what they offer for you to use to develop yourself. And then we talk through the subjects. So Lessons Alive takes the child from where they are and shows them either how to get to the best of themselves, or shows them what the best of themselves looks like, so they know exactly the behavior, the way the work is presented, they know the handwriting to do, and they're confident when they go into interviews, or they approach other schools. So I'm teaching thinking skills, and it's making a bridge between what is born as something completely natural with intelligence and integrity and creativity and all these wonderful things, and you take that and you stick it in the 21st century, which is full of a lot of negative stuff. And that's why they go off track, because they start to lose confidence, they lose self-esteem, because they don't see themselves mirrored as they are naturally. And so I give them ways to think about the culture they're in, how to use the culture they're in, how to use their parents to best effect. And it is usually the kind of lessons that every parent wants their child to have, but isn't necessarily confident enough to teach. So yeah, I'll get a child from, bottom of the class to top of the class as quickly as possible.
That's right. I mean, as I said, it really has made me thought about my own journey. Obviously, I went to a poor comprehensive school in Hampton. So I started sometime in the late 60s, and the secondary is the 70s, and I was seriously underperformed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm aware I mean, I wasn't a naughty child. I just I wanted to be engaged. I wanted someone to. There was all the naughty children, then there were the clever children, then there were stupid children. Okay, and I was just just waiting to be educated, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was great. So I'm going to remove the spotlight. Let's happen now. Have I removed the spotlight? Are we back on? Are we back on everybody? Are we? View gallery. Who knows what is recorded? So anybody have any questions? Hello, Valerie. And hello, Versa. Any questions? Anyone? Sue.
Yeah, I mean, my mother would spend time reading with us. I could read a newspaper before I went to primary school, but my spelling is absolutely atrocious. I can say atrocious, but I haven't got the faintest idea how to spell it. And somebody said it was because I read too quickly, that I can take in the sense of what I'm reading, but not the actual form of the words. Is that likely?
It's possible. It is possible. And what you can do, one of the exercises you can do, what I would do with a child, and it's quite good fun actually, is get Post-its, put all the letters of a word that you feel you want to know because you use it a lot, and then give one letter to your right hand, one letter to your forearm, one letter to here, and get a visual of the word. So you're giving your right hand the letter, if it was atrocious, the letter A to look after, your forearm the letter T to look after. And when you do things like that, it makes it memorable for the brain, and it may help you to remember more spelling if you feel. I mean, we have got spell check nowadays, but yeah.
But I still like to write everything by hand first, right. And yeah, I can get lost when I can't spell a word, but I'll try that. Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Okay, any other questions? Alessandro, you're a father. How many children have you got? Remind me, Alessandro.
Loads. No.
Lost count.
One daughter and two stepsons.
Okay. A question, Alessandro?
Yes. So I know, Gail, you've had some children for 6 or 10 years, which I find amazing. So on the one hand, then I think, how come they need you for so long? And on the other hand, I think she must be amazing if you're still working with them after that long. I mean, are they, at what point do they let go, or do you say, right, I think it's time for you to kind of be on your own? What makes some stay longer, some not so long? I'm curious.
I think some people come and they get the job done. They just want the job done, and they'll come. We sort out whatever the issue is. But to be honest, you'd have to ask them. But my own impression of it, because I have had several children that have run over. I've met them when they're 4 or 5, and they've then gone on to high school after I've been working with them. They're fine. They've got dyslexia, or they've got a processing issue, or they've got something. And I've still got one who I met when he was 4, and he's now doing his A levels. And I said to his mum at 11, I only do primary. I haven't got the curriculum for older. She said, no, but you know my son, and you know how he works, and you can make him work. Now, the interesting thing is I do support him because he is dyslexic. So I help him with the reading of, he's doing A-level history. I said, couldn't you choose something different? But he's doing A-level history. He's a lovely boy. We managed to get A stars for the English, for all of them, actually. And we did it in specific ways so that they didn't have to read copious amounts themselves. And I think people tend to use me as a reference. I mean, somebody rang me 2 days ago, and she said that she had escaped from one country when there was a problem into another country, and then into this country, and she doesn't have parents. She's now got a 7-year-old daughter. She's been watching all my lives, and she said, if you don't mind, I'm going to use you like my mum. So, and I think people like to feel that is the experience they want. It's I think it gives parents confidence that, you know, they can talk through things. I mean, the one that's doing A levels, I remember when they moved countries, and I still work with him abroad, and he had a very bad reaction. They moved at 11, and he had a very bad reaction, hated where he was taken. He missed all his friends, he missed the school, and he was in tears one day, and mum came on and she was in tears, and she said, I feel so responsible. I feel so guilty for doing this to him. And, you know, I mean, father's work, that's why they went. And I said, no, hang on, you're not responsible for doing this to him. His response to this experience is his response to this experience. What you're responsible for is leading him out of it. And it completely shifted. She sat up, you know, stopped crying, and said, I can do that. You know, it's empowering parents as well, so they feel confident. I can do that. And I think it's the bank of experience that I represent now that really helps parents to do that.
I wish I'd met you years ago with my youngest.
Thank
20 ADHD, bless him, and he diagnosed
Yeah.
a year or so ago. And my word, I wish I'd met you years ago. I really do,
Shame.
Gail. Absolutely.
Oh.
Any other questions before we wrap things up?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, it's
Hi.
Deirdre here.
Okay.
Yeah, Gail, I'd love to possibly use you in the future. My daughter, she's now 19, doing her A levels, and she's just said, I want to be diagnosed. I want to find out what's wrong with me. And we did a letter to the doctor under NHS right to choose.
Okay.
But she has processing.
Yeah.
So she can hear you.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, come on, friggin' hell, hurry up. And she still hasn't, you know, even to do a shopping list, she's still on the first word, and I'm halfway through the shopping list writing it down. But it's not ADHD, so we're trying to work out. She does get extra time, but she knows it affects her now already in work. She works in the golf course. So when the orders come in for the kitchen for food, if there's too many, she can't do it.
Well,
you know.
it could be ADD, not ADHD.
Yes, we're reading loads of stuff. ADD.
Yeah, but we can have a chat separately if you like, Deirdre.
Sure. I'd love to. Yeah.
At 19, I mean, what we need, we need a 22, 23-year-old doing a master's in Russian literature. That's what we need for Gail. Because I think she'll smash that. Well, as I said, no, I mean, I have had a one-to-one with Gail. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I've got children. I have children. I've had little children. They're now big children. But I mean, you never stop. Well, I say, fascinating. I mean, I hope you've enjoyed that. I will be recording it. Let me just quickly